Okay, I am really super excited to bring in another one of these amazing speakers, Daniel Diaz. Daniel is a speaker. He's a life mastery coach, and he has an acute focus in peak performance, mindset, and habit reform. His proprietary program serves entrepreneurs and purpose-driven individuals that are looking to excel both in achievement and in fulfillment. He was educated through Tony Robbins, and Daniel has a unique way of helping his clients remove limiting beliefs, create pattern and habit changes, and then execute on a new set of actions that propel them into their best life. He's on a mission to help millions of people rediscover their inherent worth and to step into their limitless possibilities. Give a great big warm AGC welcome to Daniel Diaz.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Thank you, Josh. I appreciate the intro. I'm excited to be here with you guys today. March 9th, 2019. This is a day I'll never forget. It's the day that my wife and I welcomed our son into this world. It was a first for both of us and an incredible feeling. And if you're a parent, I would only assume that you can relate to this experience of holding your child and looking at them and feeling this intense love, this excitement, this joy, this knowing that you would do anything for this beautiful person that you're holding in your hand, that nothing could ever stand in your way of being there for your child. Nothing could ever stop you from overcoming any obstacle to help get there and support this baby. Oh man, what an amazing feeling. You know, I will never forget another feeling. About 3 months after that, I remember so clearly my wife, she called me from upstairs and she really needed help with our son. And I'll never forget this feeling. I stood up and I went to go walk to help my wife, and the feeling of a boiling hot chef knife pierced into my lower back, right through my skin into my lower spine. And I feel this immense pain and this numbness and this fire, this electrical current just shoot down my legs, and I collapse on the floor. I am in agonizing pain. My wife upstairs needing help with our child, but also hearing the cries of her husband downstairs becomes frantic. I myself am frantic. I'm in a lot of pain. I'm scared. And I'm really frustrated that I can't be there, because what happened in that moment was not something new for me. What actually happened in that moment was the zenith of 10 years of unchecked pain. I had had back issues for 10 plus years, over a decade. Sciatic nerve pain, issues with my back, kind of the seesaw. I'd do great, and then I would be hurt and down for a little while. And maybe some of you can relate. Maybe you're like me and that you've had this experience before. And maybe like me, you just kind of adapted it into your life as part of your life. Well, this is just part of my life. This pain is just something that I'm going to experience forever, and that's just the way that it is. And I can try to mitigate the pain, but more than likely, I'll probably deal with this for the majority of my life. My name is Daniel Diaz. I'm a performance and life mastery coach, and I work with men directly, and I help them step deeper into their ultimate power so they can become the leader they were born to be, and they can fulfill the legacies they were called to create without sacrificing their soul and relationships in the process. I say that, and you might wonder, well, where does this pain lead us? So I want to take you back to this time of when I fully collapsed on the ground. I reached this zenith of pain, and what happened in the next 6 months to follow. The later half of 2019 was a 50-50 battle for me. 50% I was standing, 50% I was immobile. I spent 80 days in the later half of that year on the ground, laying flat, hoping the inflammation would subside. I had a pelvic tilt and a twisted lower spine, compacting nerves on my side, sending searing pain through my body. Some days unable to get up to even use the bathroom, with my wife having to help me while I was on the floor in that spot. It was one of the most depressing and emasculating times of my entire life. My newborn son and my wife, who both needed me, I wasn't able to be there for them. It was quite unacceptable for me. And yet I was in a space where I didn't know how to overcome this challenge. What could I do? I was immobile. I was broken. I had left this unchecked pain for so long that it had reached a point in my life where it had totally just hit me and smashed me into the wall. And I couldn't do anything about it. And it brought me down into a dark space mentally and emotionally, spiritually, and physically. I had never felt that kind of disconnection from my power, right? Where I was so radically removed from who I was in this space of pain that I was just wallowing and suffering. At the end of 2019, I made a very big decision. And I want to share with you guys because this is something that is a 3-step process that often gets overlooked and it often gets worked backwards, right? And any time that we're doing something big in our life, whether we are stepping into a new business, or maybe we're adding a new element to our business, or maybe we're making a radical change in our life, maybe it's between our diet or our physical health, maybe it's in our relationship, maybe we are taking the leap to ultimately better ourselves. Decide, commit, resolve. I'm going to say that again. Decide, commit, resolve. You see, so often we work this backwards. We hear about some big idea, or we have a big idea, or we have this urge to do something in our life. I want to leave my corporate world and I want to start this business I've always dreamed of. But what do is we start to resolve before we decide and commit. And we start to think about all the things. Well, if I could get this, or I could work this angle, or if this thing could fall into place, or I could do this or do that, then I would make the jump. Then I would leap and take the risk. But see, it doesn't work that way. The universe doesn't work that way. Our minds and our bodies don't work that way. You see, when we start to negotiate with ourselves, when we start to overanalyze, we procrastinate and we elongate this decision making, and we leave room for us to come in and say, nah, maybe it's not for us. Maybe the risk is too great. Maybe it's something I should just put off until a later date. For me, there was no later date. For me, at that time in my life, at that moment, unable to move, unable to provide, unable to be the patriarch and the rock for my family that I was called to be there, I couldn't wait any longer. It wasn't an option. So I made a decision. I made a decision in that moment that I was done with this pain. I would never experience this pain again for as long as I live. I would do whatever it takes. I would swallow my pride. I would do any of the Pilates exercises I needed. I didn't care. I would do anything. I had to decide in that moment that I would never experience this pain again. I was done with this pain. No matter what it took, I would do anything to eradicate this pain from my life forever. I would swallow my pride. I would do the exercises. I would go to Pilates. I would do yoga. I didn't care. I would do anything. See, prior to that, I would go to the gym and I would work out and I would lift, and then I would get injured, and then I would take some time off, and then I would get back in, and then I would get injured, and I would take some time off, and I would get back in. And I did this seesaw for over 10 years. Maybe some of you can relate. But not then. I made a decision. I had to make this change. In order for me to make this change, I knew I had to do a few things. I had to get around the right people. So I started reaching out and connecting to people that were in the fitness industry, that were talking about things that no one else was talking about, that would help me get my body back. I started eccentric training. I started slowly building and stretching the muscles in my back and helping things get back into normal. And let me create this intro for you. So in 2018, we did a baby moon in Montana. We're on a hike with a friend of ours, and our friend's telling us, you got to meet my friend Dan. My friend Dan Holguin, he runs this mountain. We were on a 6-mile loop in Montana. And he's like, my buddy, he runs this mountain all the time. He just runs it up and back maybe 2-3 times a day. So cool. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. And sure enough, 5 minutes later, here he comes up the mountain. He's got dreads and they're flowing in the wind, and he's chugging along, and he's got his tactical vest on, and he stops and he says hi, and we get to meet, and then poof, off he goes. And he's jumping from rock to rock, and I'm seeing him go up and down, and then he loops around the mountain. And I can't see him anymore. And I thought to myself, whoa, that was cool. Like a soldier in the mist, just moving with total power and clarity. And I thought to myself, I want that. So in the beginning of 2020, as I'm rehabbing my back, I called Dan. I said, Dan, I'm coming to run a mile. I'm coming to run a mountain with you this summer in Montana. He says, let's go. So I began training. March 21st, 2020, I run for the first time in 19 years, and I ran 2 miles. Couldn't believe it. Never run 2 miles in my entire life. Prior to that, only a mile in gym class. And to be honest, I was not good at that. And I did that. I made it. I kept running. About 6 weeks out from our run date, which was July 25th, I called Dan. I say, hey, how long is the run that we're going to go on? That's about 9-10 hours. I was like, oh, interesting. I was thinking distance, and you gave me a response of time. I gotta know how far is a 9 to 10 hour run. He's like, oh, it's about 18 miles. I was like, oh, cool. I was thinking like 7 or 6. We're gonna do 3 times that. I was like, okay. He's like, well, how much have you been running? I was like, I don't know. It's like 2 to 4 miles, like 3 times a week. He's like, that's great. You're gonna do great. You're ready. Okay. So I took his belief and I pulled it into my heart. And I believe that, okay, if he believes I'm ready, then I'm going to be ready. People would ask me 5 weeks out, are you ready? And I said, well, I don't know if my body's ready, but my mind is ready. I don't know if my body's ready, but my mind is ready. Maybe some of you can see this painting behind me. My wife painted this for me and gave it to me for Father's Day in June 2020. And in seeing this painting, I had an emotional experience and response inside of my spirit that broke out. And it reminded me of this power that lies deep within inside of me, this lion that is inside attached to my spirit. And in that moment, I made a decision about my language. Never again would I tease the fact that maybe I wasn't ready. And people would ask me, are you ready? I say, yes, I'm 100% ready. My mind, body, and spirit, I am ready. I am so ready. And I use that language day in and day out for the next 5 weeks. And on July 25th, 2020, 4 months after starting to run for the very first time in 19 years, after not being able to walk for 80 days the year prior, I summited 10,000 feet twice and ran 21 miles across Glacier National Park. There was a moment in my life that I'll never forget. And it was a moment in my life I'll never forget because of the radical change and the complete neurological rewiring that took place. The topic of this conversation is the ultimate hack for mastering your performance. And I want to share something with you. In personal development, we work, and if you're in personal development or you're into developing and growing yourself, there's certain character traits and attributes that we look to cultivate throughout our life: courage, discipline, resilience, persistence, right? Energy, confidence. The list goes on and on. There's all these things that we really work to amplify inside our body so that we can show up and be the leaders that we want to be, so that we can show up and create the life that we've always wanted to live. And from that point prior, for the 5 years prior, was a slow cultivation, listening to podcasts, reading books, applying the knowledge that I used. However, in that one day, I unveiled the ultimate hack for my performance, because in that one day, I downloaded all of those attributes. I anchored them inside of my body, and they have never left ever since. They have only grown from that space, from that knowing that I can do anything that I decide to do. Decide, commit, resolve. You see, I found myself in a place where I never thought I would be. Right? To tell me that I would become an ultra athlete in my life, even as a football player in college, I would have never believed you. To tell me I'd become an ultra athlete in my life after laying on the ground, unable to walk, I definitely wouldn't have believed you. But I radically shifted something there. And I downloaded all of these attributes of bravery, resilience, discipline, consistency, courage, confidence, honor, determination. And now nothing stands in my way. And I know for a fact that when we step that far outside of our bodies to the point where our mind and our spirit have to take over, we implant new evidence into our brain and our physical being that says, this is what you're capable of now. This is where you've just shattered the limits of what you thought was possible. You see, prior to that, I played small. I took little leaps. I just want to be a little stronger. I just want to have a little bit more flexibility. I just want my back pain to subside. And what I found in that moment was that by taking this massive leap, I propelled myself into the future. I propelled myself into that higher version of myself, and I anchored myself in there. No one could take that experience away from me. No one could shift that. 1 year later to the day, July 24th, 2021, this year, 16 months after I first started running, I ran 40 miles across Glacier National Park, anchoring in further. There are no limitations. There is nothing in this world that I am not capable of, and that you are not capable of. I tell this story because there's so much power around this honesty that I was a broken man. I wasn't growing at this rate. I wasn't accelerating. I was fragile and beaten up and emotionally, mentally broken down, right? And I had never run before in my life, but I found that one step at a time, one piece at a time, 1% better each day has brought me to a point where now I stand in the mirror and I remind myself that I am the lion and I am the ultra athlete and I am anything that I want to be. And I share this story because you too can be anything that you want to be. And I'm not here telling you that you need to go out and start running marathons, but I am sharing with you a very real truth in this world that if you push yourself to a level of endurance and stress under your body, putting yourself in a physical place so far outside of your comfort zone that your spirit has to take over, I promise you it will create a radical shift in your life and in your brain that no one can take from you and that will never leave your side. It will be a memory and an implant that goes into this system that lasts forever, and it will radically shift how you view the world and how you operate in it. A lot of people wonder, how hard did you have to train? How long did this take? Even me thinking of it, it's magical to me to think that I didn't have to train for 5 or 6 hours a day. It wasn't this big, long thing that I had to do. It wasn't that I had to separate all of the other things in my life. Actually, what I needed to do was dial in one simple thing, and that was my morning routine. I had to accelerate into my morning routine. I had to create something rock solid that I knew I wouldn't waver from. A small part of my day, 1 to 2 hours, every single day, that I would give myself this sacred time to align my mind, body, and spirit so that I would be ready for whatever the day brought to me. I would be in place, primed, and prepared for whatever the day brought. And by focusing on this 1 hour a day, every day, giving myself this little bit of time to practice and to train, in 4 months, I did the unthinkable. And in 16 months, I did the unthinkable again. Now I'm aware that ultra running is just a part of my life. It is no longer something I need to train for. It is not some big thing that I need to prepare for, but it is a gift and a window into what is possible if we practice a little bit of something every single day.